Do you think you are one of the smartest people on the planet?
Yes.
Do you think, say, Albert Einstein, do you think his IQ is higher than yours?
You know, that's a very difficult question. I have a lot of respect for Einstein. I like him personally. I like his theory. I think that the man was absolutely brilliant. So I hesitate to say that I'm smarter than Einstein, but I don't think he was smarter than I am.
I'm Michael Mosley. I trained to be a doctor, but these days I'm using my medical knowledge to probe some of the science's more intriguing puzzles.
I can see where your passion lies.
I laid these all out to memorise. This is an hour's worth of memorising.
In this programme, I'm investigating what intelligence is and where it comes from.
What's your IQ?
My IQ is 159.
149.
Between 195 and 205.
Are we born with all the intelligence we'll ever have? Or can we create the Einsteins of the future?
Which one is your brother's name?
And is there any way I can boost my own intelligence?
Relax. Calm.
When possible, make an authorized U-turn.
Somewhere around here.
I'm in Italy, hoping to crash a meeting of super intelligent beings.
Calculating route.
Well, actually, it's a get-together of Mensa, the high IQ society.
Turn left.
I'm intrigued to meet this elite breed and see what, if anything, is special about them.
Bloody hell.
If only I can find them.
I think one definition of human intelligence is knowing when to ignore your sat-nav.
Turn right. Turn left. Approaching destination. You have arrived.
I'm terribly interested to see what they're going to look like. You know, I imagine they're going to have thick glasses and beards, and that's just the women.
These are apparently some of the smartest people in the world. Their IQ scores put them in the top 2%. That's at least 40 points above the average score of 100.
All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Although it has its critics, the 100-year-old IQ test has become the most widely accepted way of measuring intelligence. So, if intelligence is a number, I want to find out what it is.
What's your IQ score?
In France, we don't give the exact digit.
My IQ?
Yeah.
Yes, but it's secret.
It's always a secret.
It's high IQ, okay.
We don't like to share this number.
Above what? Is it 160 plus?
High IQ people tend to earn more and live longer. They are also less likely to become overweight, demented, or get divorced.
Look, we have really nice girls in Mensa. You should visit one of not official activities. Maybe
It sounds like an interesting club to join, but do I have what it takes to get in?
I've got quite interested in Smith now and finding out a bit more about intelligence, sort of where it comes from, and really, can you measure it, and does it really mean anything? And I also think I'm going to try and do the Mensa exam.
When I last had my IQ tested at medical school, I scored 134, well short of the 148 I need to join Mensa. I wonder what I'd need to do to pass their IQ test.
Can I boost mine?
You can do Sudoku, you can read your books, you can do puzzles, you can keep your mind active.
But intelligence is sort of a thing that is there or it's not. You don't bone up for a test.
Have sleep beforehand. For goodness sake, don't go to the test with a hangover.
They're not quite as weird as I thought they were going to be. I imagined they were going to be the sort of people who spend their whole time sort of staring at their shoes and talking to you like this. But actually, they seemed relatively normal.
I've booked to take my Mensa test in a few weeks' time. There's a whole industry out there that claims it can help me increase my intelligence.
If you type and boost your brain into the internet, you get an enormous amount of rubbish. But amongst that, there is some stuff which is actually quite interesting. And a few of them actually seem to have a bit of scientific credibility. There's a thing here on fish oils, blueberries. Exercise increases the blood flow and oxygen to your brain, so that's supposed to be good. Quite an interesting one there on the Mozart effect, which basically claims if you listen to Mozart, it will make you smarter.
But I've found something better. A coach to help train my brain.
Units on the ready, go.
His name's Ben Pridmore. He has an IQ of 159, and one of his many unusual talents is being able to memorise a pack of cards in just 26 seconds. That's 2 cards per second. Today, he's competing in the UK Memory Championships.
In goal position, we have Ben Pridmore with 4196.
Yesterday, I gather you broke some world records.
I did, yes, 3 of them altogether.
Brilliant.
Which is quite good.
So you are the Michael Phelps of the memory world at the moment.
I suppose so, yes. I think I'm rather better looking, you know. But
do you think I can boost my IQ as well as my memory?
if you want to improve your score in IQ tests, it's something that's it's easily done. Yeah.
It's easily done?
Yes.
That's encouraging, because that is one of my goals. And you're going to be my mentor, right?
I'll do my best, yes.
Thank you.
I'm here because of a study which suggests that exercising your short-term memory can help improve your IQ score.
First error is sudden death.
This speed card event certainly seems to stretch short-term memory to the very limit.
Go.
Ben is now making an attempt on his own world record. He races through the cards.
5 minutes of recall time starts now.
Ben's then given an unshuffle pack of cards to try and replicate the pack he's just memorised. The 2 decks are then checked against each other. I am dying to know if he's broken his record.
You were a bit anxious towards the end, were you?
Yeah, I thought as much.
Right, is that 40? So look, 3.
He made a mistake on the 40th card.
What went wrong?
Oh, just not. Brain not quite working.
40 cards, yes?
Not quite working. So am I distracting you?
Yeah, fine.
40. 40 cards.
And by the way, don't sort of
No, I won't.
gesture at me and wave, because other people are still concentrating during the recall time.
I won't do it again.
Thanks.
I think Ben blew it that time. He was looking quite distressed and quite angry at the end. Maybe I was distracting him from behind. I feel a bit responsible and a bit guilty.
I keep my distance in round 2.
Time starts now. Stop memorisation.
Ben wins and becomes UK champion, which sets him up for the coming World Memory Championships in Bahrain. Whew. Well done. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
So, how does he do it? I'm off to Ben's home near Nottingham, where he's agreed to teach me his technique. Hopefully we'll get my brain up to speed for my Mensa test. As a warm-up for that test, I've also decided to join Ben in Bahrain and compete at the World Memory Championships.
Hi there.
Hiya.
Hello. Hi. Nice to see you. Whoa. This is your bed.
I've just moved in.
Right,
So
okay.
It's less untidy than it will be when I get settled.
Right, it'll become untidy.
It will, yes. Once I've had the chance to unpack a bit more stuff, I'll spread it all over the floor.
Give me a tour then. So this is, you've got a lot of Bugs Bunny here.
Cartoon videos, it's a hobby of mine.
Right. How do the tunes go on the Looney Tune?
There are actually 2 different tunes.
Okay.
The Looney Tunes one is The Merry-Go-Round Broke Down, which is the one that goes...
I can see where your passion lies.
I laid these all out to memorise. This is an hour's worth of memorising.
What's in here then? Ooh.
That's my bedroom.
Do you mind if I have a peer?
Feel free to have a look. There's not much exciting. Unlike most people, I don't use the wardrobe to keep my clothes in. I keep my comic collection.
Where are your clothes? Your clothes
These are my clothes. This is my lucky T-shirt, and I bought this in... No, it's not that one.
Are these clean?
Yes, everything is clean.
Yeah.
Dear me.
Just scrumpled.
Hey, here's the original lucky T-shirt.
Hey! Nice. This is
Yeah, it's the
original.
back
Yeah.
especially, yeah.
Ooh, Do you think this adds up in some ways to a sort of slightly nerdish sort of tendency?
It's not slightly nerdish, it's extremely nerdish. I'm an extremely nerdish person and quite proud of it too.
Okay.
I've got a very decent job. Pays me more than enough to support my weird habits. What more could anybody want?
Right, well, you could want a family, you could want a girlfriend or a boyfriend.
I don't want a family, to be honest. I'm more of a loner type.
Ben thinks anyone can learn his memory technique. He shows me how it's done.
I have to say there's something about Ben which is quite sort of, yeah, quite nice.
I'm glad you finished that with nice. I wasn't sure where you were going with that sentence. Anyway, here's a pack of cards ready shuffled. Basic key to everything is to think in pictures. Dad is Ace of Diamonds or the Dalek, King of Diamonds.
First, I need a memorable image for every card. 9 of Hearts is a house.
8 of Hearts was a sumo wrestler,
Yeah.
Sony.
That's the one.
House, horse, heart.
Yeah. This is great. We're getting into the darkest depths of your subconscious.
Sex in the sand. Right, okay, yeah, I can certainly see that.
You are by far the best pupil I've had. I hope you can take that as a compliment. But
I do take it as a compliment. So
you really are doing a great job at this.
Thank you.
Next, I have to imagine going on a walk. Each 2 cards I pick up become objects which I place at familiar locations on my journey.
So we're here in the toilets. We find a sardine sandwich lying on the Queen of Spades, which was a saw.
A saw?
Yeah.
The charity shop next?
We have the 8 of Diamonds, which was a dice. Another 25 locations which go all around the town here.
Now I've got to practice this technique intensely for the next few weeks.
Sumo wrestler.
And before him there was a fun.
I'm hoping Ben's memory technique will give me a few more IQ points.
The next one.
But before that, I want to find out more about intelligence. Is it innate? And if so, am I wasting my time trying to boost mine? My search has brought me to America, where they take intelligence extremely seriously. And where better to start than with the man whose IQ of 200 has earned him the title Smartest Man in America. He lives here in Princeton. That's Princeton, Missouri. All I have to do is find him.
I'm doing a film here about a guy called Chris Langham. Have you heard of him? No. Supposed to be the smartest guy in America. An IQ of 200. You've not heard
If he
him?
was smart enough, he wouldn't be living here.
Do you know Chris? Even the dogs around here don't know Chris. Do you know where he is?
I believe he lives up on Route P.
Finally, I arrive at his ranch in the middle of nowhere. And there, preparing to shovel horse shit, I find one of the cleverest people in the world.
And you see how it's kind of built up into a big mound here?
Yep.
Theoretically, this should all be flat.
Before moving out here, Chris worked as a nightclub bouncer for 20 years. And I asked him to show me some of his moves.
And of course, if the person who is coming at you is very, very big, right? He's very big, he's very muscular and whatnot. What you want to do is
right, okay.
like,
oh God!
and you get the guy's arm up behind him like this, you bend him over and scoot him out the door.
I can see you were good at it. Blimey, that was a surprise. So here you are, you've got an IQ of 200, and you're in a bar doing this sort of thing.
Yes.
Chris always knew he was smart, but had no idea he had such a high IQ until he took an official test 10 years ago, while still a bouncer. Overnight, the brainy bouncer became a national sensation when a magazine published his story.
What would you like me to do? As one stud to another. Hey? Hello, boy.
Just like you take that tray brush and run along his back and slowly, gradually down the side.
Right. Do you think you are one of the smartest people on the planet?
Yes. I'm far enough off the curve that you could consider me a kind of anomaly, I guess. But certain people are going to crop up with who have the kind of thought ability. I don't know whether it's discipline or whether it's just sheer raw brilliance that creates someone like me. I think no combination of determinacy and randomness can actually explain intelligence. Therefore, something more is required, a higher language. And that higher language would, by definition, be metaphysical.
Right, I think I'm understanding about as much of that as the horses at this moment in time.
Hey, you shush.
Chris grew up in poverty and was bullied by his stepfather. but his intelligence still developed at an extraordinary pace. He was speaking in sentences by the age of 6 months and taught himself to read aged 2.
Did your mother nurture you?
Well, as best she could. We were a poor family. We didn't have much in the way of material resources. So how can you really nurture your children when you've got 4 of them and you're struggling to put food on the table? I mean, you can't spend a lot of time on them or anything like that.
Despite having no higher education, Chris has developed a theory of the universe which he believes will change the world.
Contribution is something called the cognitive theoretic model of the universe, which is a theory of the relationship between mind and reality.
Right. Do you think your name will go down there with Newton, Einstein?
I think my contribution is as valid in its own way. I realize it sounds a little bit arrogant to say that, but that's how important it is.
I thought Chris was incredibly smart, but it's a shame that so far his extraordinary talent has been largely wasted. Most experts agree that genetics plays a significant part in intelligence. At least half our IQ is inherited. But if you don't get the right nurturing and access to health and education, you're unlikely to develop your full potential. My attempts to nurture my own intelligence were looking rather modest.
This is a Dalek. We've got Sophie by high chair. Falls down a hole. We move over to the dustbin outside my house, and my dustbin's house, but it's definitely trying to tell me the dustbin. Dalek.
After 3 days of practice, I could memorize a deck of cards, but it took me over 30 minutes.
Clubs. For some reason I chose club colas. A pair of socks.
Time was running out. Since environment clearly plays a significant part in intelligence, there's plenty of scope to improve my own mental abilities. Nurturing your brain at any age will bring benefits. But according to the Institutes for the Achievement of Human Potential in Philadelphia, I should have started a good 50 years ago. Here, parents try to maximize their child's intelligence by nurturing them from the moment of birth.
Reach for the person that's holding you.
They encourage their newborn babies to read using flashcards.
Which one is the word?
Parents of 4-month-old Sophia believe she is already making remarkable progress.
That's it.
So when did she start getting the flashcards? What's her age?
Whenever she was able, her vision was able to see the cards. So I would say between 6 and 8 weeks we started with her words.
Right. And when would you actually expect her to start reading?
She already is reading.
Is she?
Oh, she's already.
How do you know?
I know because she uses choice cards to make choices, and in order to do that, she actually has to read the word in order to make the choice. I'm going to give her a word.
Yeah.
Okay.
Banana.
And then I give her a choice. Which one did you see? Sophia. Which word did you just see? Okay, did you see already?
No. I'm too slow. And it'll be where she's looking at, the card she's looking at.
Correct.
Right.
You can either look Sophia, and it's her first look, or you can reach. Either way, okay?
Okay.
You can tell this gentleman the answer because he doesn't know it, okay? So you tell him the answer to the question, okay? Which one is your brother's name?
She looked at Jude.
And she reached. Did you see her arm reach this side? And
Okay.
that's his name.
And that's his name.
Good job!
Okay.
Nice job, Sophia.
Hello there. Michael Mosley.
Janet Doman's family set up this school over 50 years ago, and most of the children here have been studying since they were babies.
It's our custom to do everything on the floor.
Janet believes, and there's some evidence she's right, that early exposure to foreign languages, exercise and music all boost intelligence.
We have looked at genetics and environment as a straitjacket or a prison cell. And what we're saying is we have the same human cortex as every great genius who ever lived. Every great villain, too. But that's our inheritance. That's our genetic endowment. And as for the environment, we can enrich it as we like. You know, if I went and bought a Macintosh and you bought a Macintosh and we had the same model and you found yours could do something that mine couldn't do, that would be odd.
That has an amazing assumption in it, i.e. that we had the same Macintosh. So it could be that I had one with rather more gigabytes in than you.
And we're proposing that every child born has a greater potential intelligence than Leonardo da Vinci ever used in his lifetime.
I think she could sense I was not convinced, but pressed bravely on.
The brain grows dynamically and dramatically between conception and 6. And that's the time it's growing. That's the time that you can take in information, raw data, effortlessly. After that, it gets much, much, much more difficult.
Their messages have reached parents from as far afield as Malaysia, Australia, and Kazakhstan. They're all here on a course optimistically called How to Multiply Your Baby's Intelligence. As well as reading and language skills, babies are also taught arithmetic from birth.
Sophia, here's your equations. 3 plus 1 equals 4. Very good. 2 plus 3.
You done?
Sophia.
You done?
She's done. He's done. She's done.
By 3, they're masters of the history of art.
Like with enamel pen, roll the artist's sister 2 crowns.
By 5, they are tracking the Dow Jones Index.
7,007.61.
And by 9, they are budding engineers.
Thank you, good girl.
It's very impressive what these kids could do at such an early age. I think that it is getting them to a certain point earlier than they would have got there, but I don't believe really for a moment it's actually getting them any further.
Although I didn't begin my own education quite so early, I luckily had a good start in life and was given lots of opportunities. I suspect things would have turned out very differently had I had a less fortunate upbringing. In New York, Professor Jim Flynn believes the effects of upbringing help explain the very different IQ scores of black and white Americans. It's a hugely controversial area. Flynn, who has spent his career analysing IQ scores, believes that in America there is overwhelming evidence of an IQ gap. And this has a negative effect on the career prospects of black Americans.
I recognise you from your book.
Oh, good.
I couldn't help being surprised that a liberal professor should want to get involved in such a sensitive area.
You're one of the few academics I found who is prepared to actually talk about this stuff. Why are people so scared?
If you are sympathetic to the black community as I am, I have a history of civil rights activity, you want to find the causes of the IQ gap between black and white as a symptom of something that's going on in the black community we might want to remedy. And if you can't investigate the remedies without the causes.
Studies suggest that by the age of 24, black Americans on average score 17 points less than whites on IQ tests. Flynn has theories which I find uncomfortable.
So, at the age of 4, what sort of gap are you seeing?
4.5 points. Yeah, that appears to be different parenting styles.
Right.
Black families in general tend to have more negative verbal comment in the home and on average tend to be heavier handed.
So they tend to be more negative?
Punitive, yeah, more negative.
I found Flynn's claims about black parenting shocking, but he also emphasised that racism, poverty and teen culture significantly affect IQ.
By that time, there's an IQ gap of about 13 points.
Wow.
Which means that an even worse environment has taken over from the early school one. So you become a teenager and you go into a teenage subculture of sexual conquest, of dressing sharply, of hanging out at shopping malls. And we have reason to believe that the black teenage subculture is less cognitively demanding.
Presumably whites do that as well. I mean,
the whites dabble in it.
What happens by, say, the age of 24?
It's about 17 points,
It's
which
still
means
growing.
an even worse environment has taken over from the black teenage subculture. Between the ages of 18 and 24, more black males experience prison than they do tertiary education, which is, of course, incredible and alarming.
So more of them go to jail than go to university?
Yeah.
I mean, this is a huge gap, 17.
That's a big enough gap that it would make a lot of difference. For example, if you have to be 110 and above to be a doctor or a lawyer, that would mean that maybe 40% of white young people are at that level and maybe perhaps only 10% of blacks.
But Flynn thinks this will change. Over the past 30 years, black Americans have significantly narrowed the gap on whites, evidence that such scores are not set in stone. I'm starting to think that IQ is perhaps not all it's cracked up to be. When it comes to being a decent human being or a good worker, surely qualities like being practical, empathic and creative are just as important. But they are much harder to measure. Here in Boston, they're developing alternative tests of intelligence. Professor Bob Sternberg believes that judging people using the analytic and verbal skills that IQ tests measure is way too narrow.
The evidence suggests that there is more than one type of intelligence. If you think about kids who grew up in difficult kinds or challenging kinds of environments, the skills that they really have to develop are practical skills to survive and creative skills to be able to deal with constant changes in their environment. They didn't have the luxury of developing abstract analytical skills. They had to develop practical skills.
Bob wants to try out his pioneering new kaleidoscope test on me. It's designed to measure 3 different aspects of intelligence: creative, practical, and wisdom. Creativity first. I have to come up with a witty caption for this cartoon.
Bet my teeth are bigger than yours. The boy is grinning at the dog.
Clearly I have no future as a comedy writer. To test my practical intelligence, I have to find my way to a coffee house with only a German speaker to give me directions.
I'm looking for the Danish pastry house.
Wie bitte?
The Danish pastry house. Vous parlez français?
Nein.
Café? Café?
Ah, ein Café.
Pastry.
Yeah. Okay.
This is getting me nowhere. I had to think of something else.
Go right. Okay. So we are here. The road is curving. Somewhere I've gone wrong. So we go down that way.
I decided to cheat and ask an English speaker.
Hi guys, I'm looking for Boston Avenue.
Boston Avenue. Straight down here at the set of lights, that's a Boston Ave. It'll be in your left corner.
And that is the Danish pastry house.
Finally, another test of practical intelligence. I had to get into a locked house without a key.
Right, so not there. Is there anybody we can ring? Kick in that window. This is a good one. Is there a back entrance? Back windows often get left open. Great, I'll come and get you in then.
Does that make me intelligent? Well, Sternberg said I'd done pretty well in his alternative test.
If you think about the skills you really need on the job, they're really very different from an IQ test. In real life, there's no one who gives you a problem and says the answer is A, B, C, or D. It's a very different process.
It was all very interesting, but I needed to get home. I was rapidly running out of time before my Mensa test. There was one more brain-boosting technique I wanted to try. It's being tested by British eye surgeons, and early studies suggest it really does improve surgical performance by enhancing concentration. It's called the neurofeedback system and was pioneered by Professor John Griselier. I was keen to try it out.
Hello, hi, Michael Mosley.
With electrodes attached to me, I was asked to play a computer game involving rabbits racing in boats.
Do I look as though my IQ points are shooting up already?
Each boat represents a different brainwave. Learning to control these waves would, apparently, improve my concentration. The point of the game is to practice filtering out unhelpful brainwaves, represented by the red and orange boats, and generate more theta waves, the green boat.
And what we want to see is the green boat racing ahead and winning the race.
I have to stay calm but focused, otherwise my theta waves get swamped.
Oh my God, he's storming away now. Panic, I'm feeling very bad about this. But no, I go calm.
As soon as I started to lose myself in the task, I generated more theta waves and the green boat took the lead.
So you've really got the hang of this very quickly, I must say.
Is it something that athletes strive for when they talk about being in the zone? Is this have any connection with that?
Yes, and it occurs in sports and in the arts, singing, playing the piano, dancing, when you're lost in performance in a way. But of course you're technically on top of the game at the same time.
Go Green Rabbit. Here we go! He's catching up. He was, I win! Position first, hurrah. Could doing one session make any difference?
It depends really on whether you can identify the state that's been successful in driving that green boat forward, and then being able to turn that on when you're faced with the IQ testing situation.
The surgeons try to generate theta waves when they're performing operations.
In terms of the neurofeedback machine, what sort of results have you had?
The neurofeedback process seems to reduce the time that it takes to perform complex tasks, such as suturing, wound constructions. So doing the feedback task appears to make them better surgeons.
I can see, having seen the surgery now, how the neurofeedback could really help. So I don't think it's going to make you cleverer, but what it's going to enable you to do is probably do as best as you possibly can in the particular task you're doing. And that, frankly, is as good as having another 10 IQ points.
The day had finally arrived for my Mensa test. I was beginning to wonder just what it would prove, but part of me still desperately wanted to do well. Reflecting on my journey, I think IQ matters, but it's not the only thing that matters.
Here's your equations. 3.
I wasn't worried I'd missed out on flashcards. In fact, I think very high IQ can be more a curse than a blessing. My performance today would be down to genes, a good education, and tricks I'd picked up along the way.
I can now memorize a deck of cards in 10 minutes. I'm slightly apprehensive that it's all going to go a bit wrong, but there's a tiny little part of me which thinks actually I'm going to do stupendously well. I think theta waves. Is it theta waves? I don't know. I really don't know. There were bits of it which were fine and seemed quite easy, and then bits of it were just incredibly ambiguous, and bits of it were just impossibly hard. I mean, really mind-bogglingly impossibly hard to understand really what they were after. And I haven't a clue.
I have to wait to find out if I have passed the Mensa test. The other task I'd set myself was to go to Bahrain and compete in the World Memory Championships. "60 competitors had come from all over the world. I arrived to find my mentor Ben on top form in the speed cards competition. He is desperate to take the crown from the reigning world champion, Dr. Gunther Karsten from Germany, who's beaten him 2 years in a row.
Stop recall.
And in the goal medal position, on Ben Pritmore. Satisfactory?
Well, it's very satisfactory, yeah. I'm more than 1,000 points ahead of my closest rival.
Ben has made it almost impossible for the current world champion to beat him.
So congratulations, world champion.
Thanks very much. Don't call me world champion yet, please.
Okay.
It's still theoretically possible for me not to be. Okay.
It's my turn next.
The atmosphere is building. I was actually getting quite tension there. Right, my main competitor in the speed cards, the sort of B division, if you like, is going to be that kid over there who is 9 years old. He looks confident.
There's time for some last-minute cramming.
Sail. Chef. Cake.
I'd be quite impressed if you managed to get half a pack done in 5 minutes. I reckon you could probably do that if you really stretch yourself.
Okay, 26 cards then. Yeah. And now is my moment. Relax. Calm.
After 2 weeks of practice, I know I can do it. But the pressure gets to me.
Pulse running at normally about 60, currently about 70. Think theta waves.
Time starts now.
We move over to the dustbin outside my house. My dustbin's house, but it's definitely hit me. Blowing the kisses, over my bicycle, and there was a flower. So I had the heart, I had a bleeding heart.
Stop memorization.
I've now got 5 minutes to replicate as many of the cards I've memorized as possible. I don't want to let Ben down.
Okay, it's moment of truth. Oof, that's definitely a hit, man. But this is a Dalek. Yeah, it was a flower. Blowing me kisses. And the pig was being chased by a demon. Go down my lane. Donuts. Ah! I got it wrong. It wasn't the head. It was death. How incredibly annoying. How incredibly annoying.
I'd only managed 13 cards, which was half my target.
Trapped.
But how did I fare against the 9-year-old German boy?
26.
Well done. You beat me. I was not very good. I think he's had a lot more practice than I have. And apparently kids have better memories than adults.
I was very pleased to later watch Ben crowned world champion. But I left empty-handed.
Sit.
When I got home, my Mensa test results had arrived.
Okay, so the Mensa test has arrived, and I must admit I couldn't resist opening it. I have opened it, I know what the score is. I was incredibly interested, I suppose is the word, curious, slightly anxious to find out what the results were. It's a bit like getting your exam results, from A-levels and like that. You want to know, so I couldn't resist having a look. And I got 154, a lot higher than I was expecting. And therefore you're invited to become a member of Mensa, the High IQ Society. Maybe learning the cards helped in some way, maybe trying to get into the theta wave helped. Maybe some of the things that I learned on the way made a difference. Maybe. That's right.
Make Me Live Forever is next Tuesday at the same time, 10:35. Next tonight on BBC One, Notorious and The Pink Panther 2, plus a report on Creation, the forthcoming movie about Charles Darwin, film 2009, in a moment.